Hello and welcome and hello, and thank you for joining us on this very special late night edition of Un Poco Mas, the show where we give you just a little bit more. Feeling a little bit sick and a little bit tired, but trying to bring you a Neo broadcast nonetheless, because people have been asking for it. They say, cover Neo, cover Neo, cover Neo. Come on, you big dope, cover Neo. And so I'm like, okay, guys, I'll cover Neo. Uh, I'll do what I can. But so let's just get through it. This isn't going to be the greatest show in the world. It's probably not even going to be average. It's going to be quite a bit less than average. But so Neo Hong Kong was looking pretty good, popping up. Saw some big orders coming in. Then after the lunchtime break that they take, the stock just falling off a cliff, which it is wont to do. Looks like it's probably going to recover. Volume is moderate over there. As far as what happened in the US on Monday, volume was extremely low. Yes, DVD, I agree with you. I did not do a countdown. I apologize. Lo siento. Welcome. Hello, guys. Three, two, one. Let's Poco. And by the way, I know what you're saying. I don't have an old buddy, Danny Deals. You do now, friend. Do all my stupid shit for you guys. Anyway, welcome and hello and welcome. I don't think anybody's watching this now, but somebody might watch it tomorrow and just try to get an idea what my thinking is. I think we've definitely hit a base down here around 5. I don't think there's much appetite to push it lower. The borrowing activity has just been extraordinary. There's like 400 million shares on loan. Utilization is about 97%. 34 million shares traded Monday. Algo working extremely hard. Looked like the stock was trying to pop there a little bit at the beginning, and the algo just grabbed a hold. This is the one day. It's just really not much variance at all and very low volume, easy to control, and then just a ton of borrowing. I think they actually returned some shares after hours. I haven't really had a chance to check this out, guys. Yeah, so yesterday they borrowed an additional 10 million shares, and then today, during the day, they were borrowing 8 million, fell down to 3 million, and then after hours, fell down to right now where they're borrowing 1.3 million. Now, if you take a look at the availability, this is almost always 10 million. So all day, this is going below 10 million. Cost to borrow still relatively low. Max is at 5, average at 3.5, but it's a hell of a lot more than it usually is. Now, if you look at the short interest, doesn't seem that high. 13% of the free float, 175 million shares. But then why are there almost 400 million shares on loan? Why is that at a high? I think a yearly a high, at least for this year. And then if you take a look at utilization, you can go back 18 months. I mean, this is just steadily climbing. And I mean, we're talking about 40%. It goes all the way down to 27%. And then a year ago, this figure is somewhere 57%. And just for whatever reason, this just keeps steadily climbing. Few dips here and there, but finally to where it's reached 97%, short score 75. Again, this short score has just been going up and up and up. Days to cover up. There's different reasons why somebody might borrow shares and not actually sell those shares short. I mean, I was asking a friend of mine who, does this for a living, works for one of the mega banks, kind of a so-and-so higher up guy. And, said there's all kinds of things that happen behind the scenes, like swaps and, trades and different things where you might need to control shares, but you don't actually want to tie up that much capital. You don't want to own them, you buy them. But it's indicative of some type of unusual market activity. At least that's what people are telling me. I don't understand market mechanics at a level to know, what are these, what's going on in the dark pool? What are these market makers doing behind the scenes with all these borrowed shares? But if that price goes up, it just, I almost get conspiratorial with it, where I say, you know, they're borrowing all those shares. It takes the availability of shares that you could borrow and then short down to almost nothing, because utilization is nearly 100%. So if the hedge funds that are bullish China, and there's a lot of them, and they're Nio's one of their favorite stocks. Some few select hedge funds have been buying this thing. Um, if they take all those shares and just borrow them at a relatively low cost, so it's really hard to borrow shares of Nio, and then they flip the stock and start running it up. I mean, what's going to happen to the price action? So it might just be a contrarian thing. It might just be crazy, wild hair borrowing at least some of these shares, but I don't know. But the borrowing has just been silly, like every single day. And then how they're walking this thing down. I mean, it was just it was just October 2nd. I mean, the stock was hanging around up here at this 725 level, and the algo's walking it down in basically 50-cent increments. Next day is 675, gaps back down. Next day hanging right around 625. This gets a little bit more ambiguous because it starts running exactly on the slope rather than, gapping down, because I think this is because Hong Kong was closed a couple days or something. So it didn't do its normal pattern, but still basically if you balance it out, it's still right there around 575. And then the next day, clearly kind of down here at 525, even a little bit less. But it's been wild. I mean, wild variances in volume, daily patterns, but it's uncanny how this algo is working. I mean, look at the green line, and it's just right on script. Now, another thing to note is just sort of, I believe in coincidences. You sort of look right here, there's these two peaks, and then this one down, then these two down, one up, hanging around here. And you just see this sort of mirror itself. This is above, this is below, where it sort of has that equal and opposite reaction. It really hugs the line here and then comes way back down, back up to the line. And just, something about, excuse me, didn't mean to move that, but something about, intuition just tells me that this is going to be the bottom, or very, very close to the bottom. They had to take all the volume out of it, and they only got it down here just borrowing an absolutely absurd amount of shares. So there's no more shares theoretically. I know that more shares will materialize if they need to borrow them. If the borrow fee's high enough, certainly brokers will find shares. But for now, they're getting scarce. And the fundamentals of what they're shorting, this was kind of an interesting article. Very, very bearish. The rating he gave is a hold, but it's Bodan Kutra. I don't even know how to say that. Sorry, buddy. But Beijing goes all in. So Nio remains unprofitable burning. He just basically goes through all the bearish sentiment about how the margins aren't good. The Chinese government just gave BYD $3.7 billion subsidy package. It's going to crush the small. But I would make a contrarian argument to everything in this article that says this guy's just ignoring everything that's not convenient to his narrative, that they just launched. He's saying there's no scale, everything he's saying is sort of like ignores the fact that this company is just about to start scaling rapidly with the Onvo and then the FIrefly, and they have new factories that are being built. The Chinese government's not allowing other existing companies to build a lot of car factories, but certainly seems to have Nio. They're not talking about, how did William Li just meet with the president of China and demonstrate Nio technology? How did he just have a meeting with the presidents of the UAE and Egypt? Why was William Li? It's just interesting. These things just keep, like, you don't see other Chinese like CEOs of small companies doing this kind of thing. But William Li was at Harvard, earlier this year. So, April 13, William Li, CEO of Nio, spoke at Harvard University, where he addressed China's economic landscape as it relates to EV and a lot of other things. I read a transcript. I was interested, kind of a canned talk. It wasn't like anything, groundbreaking, but like, how is this all set up? Like, he's treated, more like a diplomat or something like that, or a high level ministerial position within the Chinese government. Like, you just don't see other CEOs like meeting with heads of state and demonstrating their products, and the other guys, sort of have to sit there and listen. And then this MINA thing comes up, which is Middle East, North Africa, opening up a big market that doesn't have all the same impediments that you might encounter in Europe and the United States. Going to go full speed ahead with charging. Just made an agreement with the state telecoms company in UAE, so they'll have the connectivity ready to go. Going to roll out the full host of when a lot of companies go into these kind of less developed markets, they don't bring the full suite. They don't bring the service. They don't bring the battery swap, or whatever they're going to do. They don't bring a full charging network, so it's just not that practical. Yes, they can import the cars, but what after that? What about service? What about charging? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Parts network, dealer network. Nio's all in because they have the partnership of these countries, the states, the sovereign wealth funds. They're using other people's money. But like this article in Seeking Alpha talks a lot about the cash burn. Now the cash burn is so outrageous, and you think, but it only was like 300. Supposedly they lost 700 million or something last quarter, but the cash burn was only like 300 million because they keep getting cash injections that are favorable for the company. Yes, they're dilutive, but not nearly as dilutive as just printing shares. I don't think. I think this MINA thing is going to turn out to be great because they're partnering with these sovereign wealth funds that have seemingly unlimited money, and they need these new technologies. So these countries need to, rely less on fossil fuels, totally oil-based. I mean, this could be a huge win that stabilize their power grid, et cetera. All the things that these battery swap stations do. Obviously, in these Middle Eastern countries, solar power could be plentiful, so you could have solar charging, have all kinds of possibilities that are opened up when you go through battery swap. But again, a lot of these bearish articles just sort of ignore what's going on the ground, what's going on worldwide, and just sort of focus on the negative. He's basically saying, hey, the thing's at a floor, so it could have a little upside. It's basically a dead cat, dead turd bounce type of argument. So I don't know. It's an interesting article, though. I read it. I like to read. It's very long. I like to read. Some upside still there. It's kind of what he starts talking. Retain their momentum for a while. It makes no sense to invest in Nio for the long term. At this stage, the prospects look grim. The company continues to burn significant amount of cash reserve, constantly needs additional liquidity injections to dilute shareholders to stay afloat. I mean, there's some fairness to that argument. He's saying they're not going to be profitable till 2027, and I mean, 2024 is just about over, so that's not that far off. I mean, you look at companies like Lucid and Rivian, and like they don't look like they're ever going to be profitable, and they're getting multiples of sales that are like dwarf anything Nio's getting. I think Nio definitely is going to be there. I think the Chinese state has made a commitment to battery swap. I mean, everybody's saying that Chang'an model sedan is actually going to be using the Nio battery swap alliance. So I guess that's the Gen 3 modified and Gen 4 stations. I don't know if that's the same as like the modification they need for Onvo or how that's going to work. People were speculating that they could be going over to another battery swap network. But that didn't make sense because that network only had a couple of dozen swaps in a couple places. So if you're going to have a battery swap with no network, what's the point of building the car? Nio's the only game in town when it comes to comprehensive battery swap that's across the whole of China, and especially all the major urban centers where battery swap is going to be, most critical. So anyway, yeah, let's Poco. I'm not watching for sure. Danny 130. Derivatives market, lots of shit happens there. Yeah, derivatives market, that's what another thing I've heard. I just don't get it. I just don't get what all those borrowed shares are going to be used for, but obviously somebody's making money. But what's going to happen when they're returned? When are they going to be returned? Why is that holding the price down, just borrowing the shares if they're not being sold short? Is that the algo, dumping shares and then borrowing to somehow supplement that position? I just don't get, those market mechanics as much as I should. But it's unusual for me to see a stock with 170 million shares short and then 400 million shares on loan. And then, like I said, it's 97% of capacity. So utilization 97%. Does that mean they can't find any more shares to borrow? No, but it means they're not going to be nearly as cheap. as they had been in the past. At least, that's my understanding of thing. But, how is William Lee so connected? It seemed like 2024, they just put him on the world stage, put Nio to the forefront. They're getting, they're saying, okay, BYD is getting a lot of subsidies from the state. I mean, think about it. The state, JAC, they built, Nio's factories, this whole Nio park. This is a state enterprise. They just got a big cash injection that they matched, super. So I think the Chinese state at different levels is as just as much behind Neo's success of their battery swap network. Remember, BYD is not building competing networks. CATL is planning to, but that network is now in its infancy. And I think the Chinese government is, wise enough to understand the concept of a bird in the hand, dude, a bird in the hand. So you just have to go from there. As far as tip ranks, last thing you saw again was that DBS upgrade from. And she's a good analyst. I took a look at her background, ratings, etc. She covers China. She knows China. $7.30 to $8 in a buy. You had Citibank, $8.90 in a buy, 55 and 73% upside respectively. HSBC 40%. Everybody has upside on the stock until you get down to this Zhong Chao over at Barclays. But even the bears like Bank of America, they still have a little bit, moderate upside on the stock. JP Morgan, $8 price target, a buy, quite a bit of upside on the stock. They're quite influential in terms of their ratings. Definitely the biggest bank in the world, definitely has a lot of resources. And as I look at, what they tell their actual clients and what their ratings are, they tend to correspond. Like they don't sort of have this disconnect between what their analysis is saying versus like what they're telling their clients, what they're doing internally. It seems like they're sort of a little bit more straightforward at JP Morgan than some of the others, but I'm probably naive or seeing that wrong anyway. Jeffries, who I like, it's not, pretty bearish on the stock. So it's kind of all over the map. I mean, overall, 23% upside, moderate buy. So nothing sort of revolutionary there. You do generally see price targets exceed where a stock tends to trade, just as a matter of course. Max Payne, it's not coming up, but I think it was, what was, I can't remember. I looked earlier. As far as what's going on in the short sale volume, dark pool and exchange data, this has been running super hot, high 50s, low 60s, even mid 60s on Friday today, 51%. So not quite as high as it has been, but you notice they completely sucked all the volume out of the stock. So absolutely no market makers buying Nio today in the US. Now they were buying earlier in Hong Kong. On the Hang Seng, you saw some big orders coming in, then they hit it after lunch, knocked it all the way back down below 41, and then it seems to be recovering just a bit here. But again, on very, very tepid volume. It's just super lukewarm. But, this is, I guess, their day precedes us. So this is going to be their Tuesday. This is going to be their trading Tuesday. I think it's usually a slow day on the Hang Seng. But I don't know. It's hard to say what's going on over there. They can't really short stocks, but it's clear that the same market makers that are playing games with the stock in the US, they weren't really totally a hold of the stock in Hong Kong for a little bit, but then they got a hold of it. They got their act together. They got their story straight, and they're, running the stock as of now. But just a funny thing, like I was going through the 7 stages of being a weak turd as far as like a returder and what you invest in. So this was like true of like SoFi. It's true of Nio. There's opportunity because like a lot of times market makers, they don't want to take risks. They want to buy shares cheaper than retail that's been holding through all the risk and jockeying through all the risk. They want to buy shares when most all the risk is gone, but they want to buy it at a price that it was still extremely risky. And they do that by just bullying the living shit out of retail investors and weaker institutions. And, if they're shorts, they bully the other. It's just, they throw money around. It's like a dick measuring contest. And this is kind of the 7 stages of being a weak turd. So retail pumps a stock. It's a new shiny object. Doesn't matter if you're taking Nio to 60 or SoFi to 30. Retail pumps a stock. Then debts emerge, chinks in the armor, doubts, smart money shuns or shorts. Then the stock tanks. A lot of retraders get out at the bottom, end up selling the dip and smelling the rip. It can churn at the bottom. But anyway, the stock tanks, that's where, some smart money will start to buy in. Fundamentals improve with the company. And then what happens is, a lot of these companies, as they get tanked, they'll fail, or they'll continue to stay in the doldrums because that's where they deserve to be. But you have some companies, the stock tanks, with sector rotations, different macro issues, et cetera, like what happened to SoFi, and the fundamentals remain quite strong. And in either case, like Nio, they did have some legitimate problems with manufacturing. I mean, they were completely inexperienced when it came to scaling their factory, and they had a lot of help from the state and different stuff. But anyway, fundamentals improve, and you notice the price and the actual value that somebody else would analyze and put on the stock, and the actual share price tend to diverge. And the value of the company, the execution of the company, the sales of the company, whatever, continue to increase, but shorts and market makers just continue to hit the stock. So you have that divergence, and that's what creates an opportunity. That's where I like to look for the opportunity when market makers create that price value divergence. That's where I jump. Then the smart money devises a plan to steal the shares from hapless retarders as low as possible. And then retail folds and pees their pants, and then smart money runs up the stock. Retail reaps after they have sold the dip and then smelled the rip. And you notice, why did Upstart make a huge run? And then you look at it, it's like, 65% institutional ownership. Why is Hood so hot right now? He's like 88% retail ownership. There's very little shares there that retraders are playing around with. And really, when they tend to run stocks up, it tends to be smart money owning a lot of those shares. It's very difficult for retail to get rich inside of this market. I mean, there's just not a lot of GameStops. There's not a lot of roaring kitties in red headbands. It just doesn't work out that way most of the time. But swap's a unique selling point. The expansion map continues. MINA, they're still aggressively going to push into the EU with swap. I think the subsidies the trade war will subside over time, and everybody will sort of get their wits about them. Europe needs China, China needs Europe, same with the United States. Swap is a very unique selling point. In terms of recurring revenues, they may have service, they may have insurance, they may have a certain amount of charging, they may have subscription models for full self-driving, mapping, other things like that. But Nio is really the only one that has this sort of control over, an actual ecosystem. A full ecosystem. They have, a big charging network that mostly other companies use. They have battery swap. They have other companies that are just about to start using their battery swap network. They function with the power grid. They make their own chips. And one of the things I also like about, what Nio's roadmap is they're not going after that robo-taxi market. There's already companies in China in like the 12th generation, 10th generation robo-taxi. There's tons of companies doing it. It's a very saturated market, a lot of companies testing. Yes, Nio has the permits to test high levels of autonomy, and that's very important in terms of what William Li said for safety, driver fatigue, customer satisfaction, comfort, but they're not their goal. And I think this really resonates maybe in China as well as Europe. Their goal is not to put the professional driver out of business. Their goal is to build a better mousetrap that sort of fits in with how society works, how jobs work, how the Chinese state wants them to function. I think they're a team player, but I think that's going to actually work in our favor as shareholders over time, because it's going to allow them to be in a favorable position, a preferred position vis-a-vis different levels of the Chinese government, which is allowing them to be in a preferred position with governments all around the world that are dependent on China, or have strong trade relationships with China, or other military, etc., relationships and exchanges with China. So having this preferred position with the state could be extremely important for Nio. Hey, what's up, Charted Travel? How you doing? Good to see you. Nobody's really here, so just talking a little bit of Nio. Let's see what's going down in Hong Kong. Still kind of hanging around that $41 mark, up about 2%. But I think that's kind of where it is was in America. So really hanging around the toilet, really circling the toilet bowl like a proper turd that it is. But let's just take a look, just widen this thing out a little bit, see where we are. The reason I thought we might actually kind of hold here, let me just clear off all this crap. The reason I thought we might actually hold here is you look at this other shoulder, you sort of see this obvious up and down on the straight algorithms, but we're holding this area and it hasn't yet, this candle breaks down below, hits 499. We haven't hit that level yet. We've held, up in the low fives. So we have to see, does it move, up off of 5, in which case I think, you could see a fairly rapid recovery as long as everything stays on track. And that's the question. Is Onvo really going to emerge as like a giant killer? People really like the car so far. That's the word in China. That's what I'm seeing on YouTube. It's like very utilitarian. It has a ton of space. It's a great family hauler. It's like, the space of a van, SUV, lots of room, incredible features in the back seat, beautiful interior quality, lots of high-end features. It's built on the newest platform, the high voltage architecture. All the criticisms that this was sort of a second-rate vehicle and, to bring the cost down, it's just, I don't think it's playing out like that. People say it's, an incredibly high-quality vehicle. And people seem to really like it. It looks like they're getting a little, from all the U-turners and different coverage I'm seeing inside of China, it looks like they're getting a ton of orders. But what are you guys seeing, expecting to happen with Nio tomorrow? All this borrowing, the significant short interest, are we expecting to see any new partnerships, any new battery swap cars announced, anything new as far as FIrefly, anything in the pipeline? No big news today. Just wanted to kind of come on and shoot the shit, chew the fat, kick the can around. Anyway, what a game people had. What's up? Hellos and welcome, Nader Garashi. Good to see you. Charter travel. I'm in Hawaii. It's only 8 p.m. So un poco mas. Yeah, guys, I get off of here. I'm not feeling very well. Super tired. Sore throat. In fact, let me get a little bit of water. Do I have any decaf? No, I don't have any decaf. Thank God. Get a little bit of water from the old sport top. So yeah, what do you guys think is going to happen tomorrow? There's really nobody here, so I'm basically talking to myself. Who's we? You got a mouse in your pocket? No, but one of the most unusual things is volume was so low. I mean, I know it's a Monday, but 33 million shares, and you just look at this pattern, this like perfect V, sell it all the way off, start accumulating. They're really accumulating all day. Kind of look at how there's just these millions of little tiny peaks. I mean, these represent accumulation. They're kind of churning the stock, churning shares, but definitely I don't see any type of smart money really dumping and shorting down here around 5. I just think there's a lot of buying pressure inside of China, inside of Asia. There's a lot of hype around this brand. Chinese government's doing what they can to push it to the forefront. I don't believe there's any connection between mine and Tanner's health, but yeah, no, I think people are just exhausted and the weather and stuff. I don't know. As resident of the UAE, I see how Nio is signing memorandums of understanding with the major companies here. I have no doubt that Nio is going to succeed. It's basically a government company. Yeah, that's what I've been saying all along. I completely agree with you, Nader. You seem to have quite a good handle on what's going on. Graham Colstock checking in from London. Probably enjoying a soft-boiled egg. Like I said, Graham's family has been in the monocle business for 12 generations. And no, what's going on, Graham? How's it going? Hope you're having a good day over there in London. What's good over there? I would like to go on vacation. And I had one viewer from Scotland. I got another viewer here from London. It's looking like a beautiful trip over to the British Isles might be in my future, but time will tell. Time will tell. Good morning, Graham. So, guys, I don't know. That's really all I had to say about Nio. And I'm not really sure I said anything, but it's just the algo is just walking that thing down. Like the journey from the 7s to 5, it's like, yeah, it's a huge fall and it's very, very scary. And you're taking big paper losses and all that. And I get that, but I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, we're down on that other shoulder. We're either going to find support or we're not. I mean, they're going to take this thing back down to 4. Seems like there's an awful lot of good stuff happening, within China, around the world for this company. Yeah, the margins got real out of whack there for a while, but they were building out a lot of stuff. They're building new factories, they're building new brands, they're building out battery swap, and they weren't selling hardly any vehicles. Now they're selling cars. They're moving product. They're at the car shows, the dealerships are very, very busy. A lot of their store managers, a lot of their retail people, they're poaching from Tesla. So that's a good sign. I mean, I think it's clear that the Chinese government's setting up this thing to take down Tesla, to rival Tesla around the world, to surpass them technologically. I mean, I don't know if that's possible. I think Tesla's a great company. I've been a Tesla investor for a long time. I want EV. I'm very bullish EV in general, but I think Nio is very, very unique, and I think they're going to be there at the end. I think they're going to get through this period of shakeout, consolidation, companies going out of business, companies not being there anymore. You're going to start to see a lot of that within China. Only so many companies can survive. Only so many standards, and with battery swap. The real challenge is going to come in from CATL, but are they going to be on time? Nio already has a lot of partners. Who's partnering with CATL? I mean, obviously they have the huge amount of gravitas as the leader in battery game. I don't know, guys. This is one I feel like this stock should be a double-digit stock given how EV companies are valued around the world, whether it be Rivian or Tesla or any of the others. I just feel like this is a company right on the edge of really increasing revenues, really getting their margins under control, and I don't think it's at all inconceivable that they could become profitable by in 2026 rather than 2027, as the analyst was saying in Seeking Alpha. But time will tell. It just depends on how many units they can move of these sub brands and where they move those units, how these price wars play out. There's just a lot of variables that we don't know where things are going to be in 2025, much less 2026 and 2027. So I think it's a little premature to say they're not going to be profitable, but just woke up, still dark beer anytime. Good morning from the Netherlands. What's up, Yannick? How are you? No doubt Nio will be profitable before 2020. I think so. I think they could be profitable next year, crazy as it may sound. I think they're funding a lot of their growth without a lot of CapEx, using other people's money, government money, technology fund money, et cetera, et cetera. That's why their cash burn isn't as fast as it should be. Anyway, guys, not feeling too well. Got to go ahead and hit it. Yeah, unless CCP, I mean, they need, it's all this price action's all been about government stimulus, lack of government stimulus. People are quote unquote disappointed by what the trade minister or the interior minister or whatever says. All of a sudden, stock just crashes, from 7s down to 5. Okay. I mean, everything these days is all about overreacting, all about being a huge Karen. So, I'm not hating, but I think the price should go up in the U.S. Tomorrow. A lot depends on, of course, what the overall market's doing, what other EVs are doing, but they're really hitting it after lunch here in Hong Kong, and this is not unusual. They really go after this thing late in the day, just drive it down, just wring out all the gains on low volume. Notice, before lunch, there's a lot of big orders coming in, a lot of pretty decent volume coming in, probably like, at least 4 or 5 decent size orders and maybe a dozen like smaller orders you see on the candles there on spikes. But then after lunch, they kind of tend to go away and they're just like crashing the stock. They have to dump. They can't technically short here, but this is all of a sudden like, this thing was really moving in Hong Kong, and then the Americans got in and basically stepped on it. This is a typical FU middle finger pattern that you see in America. You don't normally see this type of price action because Hong Kong it's just more regulated. There's not all the shorting and different activity that you see here. I'm doing great. Absolutely love your insights. I'm in 10% on Nio and 40% on SoFi. Very nice, Yannick. Yeah, that's kind of how I'm allocated as well. I probably have 3 to 4 times more SoFi than I do Nio, and thank God I really went in really heavily on SoFi at the recent lows, like 6 lows, and it's just on options, and bought some calls, bought some shares, and the options just went absolutely insane. Sold a lot of them up about 350%. So that was very fortunate. Bought a lot more leaps. Tons of contracts. So I love SoFi. Nio, obviously much more risk, much more of a wild card. SoFi already making money. Nio some time from making money. So I just think Nio is kind of in that same cycle I talked about here, where market makers bring it down and then beat the living shit out of retail. So retail pumps a new shiny stock. Doubts emerge. They either shun or short the stock. The stock crashes. Fundamentals improve. There's a divergence between the price and value that creates a buying opportunity. That's where institutions will tend to snap up those shares. So smart money devises a plan, sort of repeatedly bashing retarders over the head with a hammer to steal their shares as low as possible. Retail folds, wets the pants, runs on home to supper with their mammy, sort of tuck on their mammy's house dress or whatever, and then smart money runs up the stock once they own all the shares, and retail weeps as they have sold the dip and smell the rip. Yeah, SoFi's up 35 to 40%. Yeah, SoFi's been up huge. I mean, SoFi's made a massive run, obviously. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that it was in the low sixes, and it was like only a month ago that it was in the low sevens. So yeah, no, SoFi's made a massive run. I think Nio will do the same, quite honestly, but you just have to be patient. You don't know when it's going to come. It comes when market makers want it to come. Guys, we don't get to drive the bus. Market makers get to drive the bus. They get to make the bus route. They get to pick the driver. They get to pick how fast the bus goes, when it slows down, when it stops, when it goes into reverse. All we can do is take our money and decide when do we get on the bus and when do we get off the bus. We can't fret and worry about the manipulation, when the bus does what. Just buy low and sell high. Sell options when appropriate. You don't have to make it super complicated. You can make money inside of this market. The idea, take the emotion out, keep it simple. When market makers try to bash you out at the lows, buy more shares. That's the thing. Like, that's what I'm doing. If they take Nio down to 5 again, just take advantage. They obviously want to get you out. Shorts want to cover. They want to accumulate. I mean, everybody's bullish China right now. The government's going to dump a bunch of money in. Hedge funds are bullish. They want to make a trade. Maybe it's not a long-term thing. Maybe they're not bullish on Nio for 10 years. Maybe they're bullish on Nio for 10 months. So what? Take advantage. Take advantage of these lows if you're a long-term bull. Like, well, I'm way upside down. You got to, DCA down. It's just the nature of the beast. You got to have big balls for this thing. You got to have brass balls to sell real estate. If you've ever seen Glengarry Glen Ross. Anyway, guys, I'm bored as hell and I'm boring. And this broadcast has just lost its luster. So I'm going to get going. Hope you guys have a great night or morning, depending on wherever you are. Thanks, all of you, my Euro friends, for joining me, my American friends. Appreciate you guys. How will Trump winning election affect Nio? I don't know. I don't know. Odds makers have the election kind of a toss up, but I don't really think it's going to matter that much one way or the other. I don't think they're going to be in America in any meaningful way in the next 4 years anyway. They have plenty of markets to explore in China, Europe, Middle East, Asia, other parts of Asia. So I don't know. I don't think it really matters. Are you in on PayPal? Yeah, I'm in on PayPal. Yeah, actually, when Steve recommended that stock on Tanner's show, I was buying, I want to say it was $54. I got in. Yeah, they got me in heavy on new below 10 too. So I've made a killing on both of those stocks. I don't even know where PayPal is right now. I think it pulled back a little bit, but I still like it. I bought quite a bit there in the 50s. So yeah, I'm involved. I'm definitely involved. I'm in the thick of things. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. It's been Poco Moss. We try to give you just a little bit more. It's Nio Stock, symbol NIO. I'll talk to you guys soon. Appreciate you. Peace. I'm out. Bye-bye.